A torque converter is a fluid coupling that converts engine torque to transmission torque. To put it simply, it is bolted directly to a flex plate that is rotated by the crankshaft and mounted between the engine and transmission. Fuel is burned in internal combustion engines to generate power, which drives the pistons to turn the crankshaft at the bottom of the engine. The torque converter's internal fluid pressure transmits this rotational force to the transmission. Without disassembling the transmission or drivetrain, it can be difficult to isolate and diagnose a torque converter issue, but there are a few signs to watch for. Shuddering, contaminated fluid, gear changes at high RPMs, and strange noises like clicking or whirring are a few symptoms of a damaged torque converter. Let's take a closer look at them. It's the Car Problems YouTube channel. Subscribe and let's get started. Overheating. If your car is overheating according to the temperature gauge, there may have been a drop in fluid pressure or your torque converter may be malfunctioning. A converter won't be able to transfer power from the engine to the transmission if it is overheating. Poor throttle response and excessive transmission internal wear and tear are the results of this. A malfunctioning solenoid or low fluid levels can also make a transmission overheat. Slipping. A damaged fin or bearing can make a shift in the transmission take longer than it should or cause the transmission to slip out of gear because a torque converter converts engine torque into the hydraulic pressure required to shift gears inside the transmission. Insufficient or excessive fluid in the transmission can also contribute to slipping. Additionally, you might notice a decrease in your car's acceleration and its fuel efficiency. Before bringing your car to a shop, be sure to check the fluid levels. Contaminated transmission fluid. Automatic transmission fluid is put into a torque converter. The internal components may suffer damage if the fluid is contaminated. As a result, one of the turbines may have damaged fins or worn bearings on the stator. If there is a sizable amount of black sludge, grime, or debris in the fluid, the converter or transmission may be broken. Change the fluid in this situation, then drive around for a while before rechecking the fluid. Get a professional to inspect your car if the issue continues. Shuddering. You might feel trembling at speeds of between 30 and 45 miles per hour if the lockup clutch inside the torque converter is beginning to malfunction. It typically feels like you're driving over a rocky road with numerous small bumps, and the sensation is very noticeable. This sensation can be caused by a worn lockup clutch, making the converter's transition to direct drive challenging. If you frequently experience this sensation, it may come on suddenly and go away quickly. Time it's to have your transmission checked. Strange or unusual sounds. Strange noises coming from the torque converter are not uncommon as it starts to fail. You might hear noises like whirring from worn-out bearings or clinking from a broken turbine fin, among others. Higher stall speed or gear engagement RPM. The engine RPMs must reach a certain level in order for the torque converter to transfer power from the engine to the transmission, which is known as the stall speed. In other words, if transmission output is restricted, it is the RPM at which the converter will prevent the engine speed from increasing. The torque converter's ability to properly convert the rotational force of the engine into hydraulic pressure will be compromised if it is damaged. As a result, the transmission will have to wait longer to start the engine, increasing the stall speed. You must first determine the stall speed of your vehicle. Typically, it's about 2000 RPM. Common causes of torque converter problems. There are a few possible causes for problems. Here are some broad hypotheses for the potential causes of the issue, but don't make any assumptions before having your transmission examined. Damaged torque converter seals. If you notice transmission fluid dripping from the bell housing, the torque converter seal may be compromised. Your torque converter won't be able to effectively transfer power from the engine to the transmission if it can't hold enough ATF. As a result, there will be overheating, gear shifting issues, odd noises, faster stall speeds, and gear slipping. The defective seal must be located and changed. Faulty torque converter clutch solenoid. The amount of transmission fluid that the converter's lockup clutch receives is controlled by a torque converter clutch solenoid. The lockup clutch won't function properly if this electronic device can't accurately measure the fluid pressure because of an excessive or insufficient fluid supply. This may cause the direct drive function to stop working, poor gas mileage, and engine stalling. Worn torque converter clutch. There are numerous clutches scattered throughout the assembly of an automatic transmission. The mechanism that locks the engine and transmission into direct drive is known as a torque converter clutch. Your car might stay in gear even after you come to a stop if the torque converter has been burned by overheating, jammed or locked up due to distortion, or if contaminants in the transmission fluid have damaged the friction material on it. If the friction material on the clutch plate has worn away, the converter may also tremble and fail to lock itself into direct drive. Bad torque converter needle bearings. Needle bearings allow the stator, turbine, and impeller to rotate freely. These rotating parts are kept apart from the converter housing by the bearings. You'll notice less power, odd noises, and metal fragments in the transmission fluid due to metal-on-metal contact or grinding if these bearings are damaged. Torque converter replacement cost. If you've observed one or more of the aforementioned signs, your torque converter may be broken. Have a mechanic or technician take a look because the cost of having it fixed may be higher than just replacing it. If you want to do the repair work yourself, expect to pay between $150 to $500. A torque converter replacement will cost between $600 and $1,000 at repair facilities. The torque converter itself is reasonably priced, but replacing it requires removing the transmission, which adds 5 to 10 hours of labor. It is also recommended to change the fluid, which may not be included in the price a shop gives you.